Am I blue? Am I blue? He certainly ain't. Rest in peace, Kevin. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we're taking a look at one of our last figures for the month. This is Bluestreak. Like many of the Autobot cars from 84, he would be on the shelves through 85, and would be discontinued by 1986. Now, Bluestreak gets a lot of flack due to the fact that, like Larry pointed out, he's called Bluestreak, but aside from the stickers, there isn't a drop of blue on him. Well, the original Japanese toy that would become Bluestreak was, in fact, molded in blue. If any of you have the checklists from 1984, when the line originally came out, you'll see that that toy was the one used for the stock photography on that checklist. There was for a long time an outstanding urban myth that there was a super rare blue version of Bluestreak. However, that has in recent years been disproven. There was none under the Transformer brand of this particular toy. There have been later versions of the toy that have been done in blue, but they are not the original that this one was based off of. So, unfortunately, if you happen to have a blue one, you either have a modern version or you have the original Takara release. Now, of course, for a time, Bluestreak was renamed as Silverstreak due to the fact that Hasbro lost the trademark for a brief time. They have since regained the trademark to Bluestreak. However, partially as a gag, they did release a character called Silverstreak back in the Kingdom line as part of the Buzzworthy Bumblebee line. And it was basically the Earthrise version of Bluestreak painted in blue. So, kind of their own way of having a little bit of fun with it. I do have that version of Silverstreak, and it has been reviewed. So, but we won't be showing him on this review. Now, like many of the other 1984 toys, Bluestreak has had numerous versions done up of him over the years. I do have a couple of them. This one right here is the Siege version of Bluestreak. It was one of the last toys to be put out in the War for Cybertron Siege line, and it came out only in Walmart stores here in the United States. And he arrived just mere weeks before Christmas, too, so imagine the fun I had trying to find him. But then again, it was pre-COVID. That was when Hasbro cared to make sure store shelves had new toys. Now they don't care. And then next up we have the Earthrise version of Bluestreak, which is somewhat similar to the Siege version but done up in different parts. And done up to somewhat more resemble a slightly modern Datsun rather than the original toy. This one, since for some reason the Bluestreak character seems to be an exclusive, he was an exclusive at Walgreens drugstores. Again, also back when they cared about putting out getting toys out on shelves. Nowadays, we're lucky if we find a new one. My buddies over in the G.I. Joe community especially know what I'm talking about. At any rate here, Bluestreak functions as a gunner but is often quiet amongst his many Autobot allies, as he does suffer from a bit of PTSD from seeing the Decepticons ravage his hometown. So nice to see that they injected a little bit of actual war drama into the character. Unfortunately, it really didn't get played out very much. And looking back on it now, it is kind of a bad thing that they didn't. It would have been nice to showcase that war is not a fun thing where you just go out, make the bad guys retreat, and you celebrate and come home. But then again, in 1986, with the animated film, that really did show us the true price of war. The mold for Bluestreak would be shared quite a lot amongst the Transformer fandom, as it would also be used for his shelfmate Prowl in that same year, and it would be somewhat retooled for the following year in '85 to make Smokescreen. So, while not quite as popular as the Seeker Jets, it is one of them that has it done more than once. So, he does have that going for him. The silly part of it is that both Prowl and Smokescreen in the Generation 1 era share the same accessories, save for the missile launchers. All of them have their launchers in different colors. But otherwise, they have the same guns and the same missiles. The only way you'd be able to differentiate them as to belonging to a certain one is if the chrome is worn. And we'll show you that here in just a moment. Let's take a look now at Bluestreak's accessories. Starting here with his gun. Like I said, it is the same gun that comes with Prowl and Smokescreen. And then right here we have a pair of missile launchers. It has a post on the side with the screws, so those connect into a hole on the side of his head. And of course, Bluestreaks here are done up in a red color. Prowls are in a gray color, and Smokescreens are in a white color. That's very important here. And then next up we have the missiles. Bluestreak comes with 3 missiles, so he has 1 to load in each launcher, and a spare in case you lose one, because the launchers were neutered. Now, as I was stating, you can find out if it belongs to a specific character due to the chrome wear, because they were chromed over the original molded color. And their molded color matches their missile launchers. So here's a second missile that I have of Bluestreaks, and as you can see, the tip of it has been worn off of the chrome, and it features red plastic. The same red that would match his missile launcher. But again, that's something for if you're a real fussy person about that. If you're not, well, don't really worry about it, since they're all the same. Alright, Bluestreak's articulation is pretty much what you would standardly find on many toys, many of the other Transformer cars. You can move the arms at the shoulder a bit, just like that, and he does have a bendable elbow. And it's really about all that he has. Rather sad, but one other thing to pay attention to, like many of the cars where the head is attached to part of the hood and the windscreen is rather thin in plastic, and it does break very easily, so do keep an eye on that on loose samples, and if you happen to have one, be very delicate and careful in how you take care of it, display it, or store it, so it doesn't get broken on you. Alright, to transform Bluestreak, we'll take his head and we'll fold it down into the hood of the car so it'll bring the windscreen up. And then we're going to fold the bottom. We can use that to fold the front end of the car up like so. Take his arms and rotate them at the shoulder so it gets the tire pointing in the same spot as the fender. This is very delicate on mine, especially on this other one here. There we go. We got it in. We got it to do it. Now you're going to fold them in. You'll rotate the arms, bend them at the elbow. Have one go up and have the other go down. There's some posts, as you can see, protruding here and here. Those should line up with the holes in his fists. If you can get them to connect like that, it will keep his arms from flailing about. Of course, it's not perfect, but it's the best you can do. You come down here to his hip, you'll raise up this section in the middle. Keep the dirty jokes to yourselves. And rotate him at the waist. And then fold the post back down to lock his waist into position. Come down here to his feet and you'll slide them together. And then fold them down like so. And then we can bring the car halves together. Try to line it up so that the windscreen piece has this little post go under the back windows. And then adjust him so you can get the doors closed. Since unfortunately there's nothing for the doors to connect to, so they will sort of hang loose. But there we have it. He transforms himself into a Datsun Fairlady Turbo with a T-top. Of course, there was another toy released around that time that had similar alternate mode. The Super GoBot Z-Mon was also a Datsun Fairlady Turbo, but he came in a bright red color, so in some ways, despite people hammering on the GoBots, Z-Mon looks a little better than Bluestreak. Not that I'm knocking the silver color, because I drive a silver Sonic, so silver's a nice color, but again, as you can tell, there is some color difference. Of course, there probably is some on Z-Mon too, thanks to the way the T-top's done, but I guess that's just personal preference. How well does Bluestreak here roll on his wheels? Surprisingly, very good. Especially if you can keep those arms from dragging on the ground. He does roll pretty good. And before we go, we'll take a look here at his tech spec. It's done up in red to signify he's an Autobot. Even shows Autobot above him. His name is Bluestreak. His function is Gunner. And his motto is, I never met a Decepticon I didn't dislike. Bluestreak often talks incessantly and inanely, lightens the situation for all Autobots with his good-natured manner. Despite formidable weaponry and blazing speed, he hates war. Haunted by memory of Decepticons destroying his home city. Fires bombs up to 8.3 miles and lightning light 80,000 volt beam up to 12 miles of limited accuracy. Often inhibited by his disdain for combat. In some ways, a lot of the Autobots that they carried around were kind of like many of the characters in the Star Wars Legends era, as the Rebel Alliance would often get a lot of people willing to fight the Empire, but not a lot of them that were really well trained enough to be able to help fill many of the needs that they specifically needed. At any rate, we'll come over here to the grid. Normally you would need the decoder to read it, but I can read this one just fine. Certain angles, maybe you can too in the camera there. It gives his strength as 6, his intelligence is 6, his speed is 7, his endurance is 9, his rank is 5, his courage is a dismal 2, but then again that goes along with his disdain for combat. His firepower is 9 and his skill is 7, so while not really being all that brave, he is decently capable at his job. So what do I think of Bluestreak? I find the history behind Bluestreak to be a little more fascinating than how the toy came out. Since, unfortunately, this one, while better than most, still really isn't all that great. It is an easily fragile toy, so it is one thing to keep an eye on. But also, it's just, he's kind of bland when you compare him to both Prowl and Smokescreen. Not that there's anything wrong with him being a civilian model of a car. Being a robot in disguise, a civilian model of a Datsun Fairlady would certainly attract less attention on the roads. It's just, unfortunately, since they didn't liven it up with any other colors or whatnot, he just comes off kind of plain and blah. I guess that's why we see in some of the modern versions, they've added a little bit of black to like the hood and such to give him a little more splash of color. Since, in reality, the solid silver like this, it's just kind of bland. But, in some ways, being bland also means that he blends in a little better. And that could allow him to infiltrate human society just that easier. At any rate, that's my review of the Generation 1 version of Bluestreak. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please do remember that if you love the content we feature on this channel, I would appreciate a like, a share, a comment, and a subscription. Now, we don't know quite yet what we're going to do next month. I may do some studio figures, unless I happen to get lucky and find some Legacy United figures, because, man, those guys are being a pain to find. At any rate, we'll just have to wait and see. This is Sparkster1701 saying I'll catch you all later.